Hello and welcome. Moss Adams is pleased that you've joined us for today's session, 2025 Trends in the Retail Industry. Before we begin, I'm going to play our housekeeping video.
Welcome and thanks for joining us. Moss Adams webcasts are designed to help elevate your business performance. Transform your future for the better with advisory solutions tailored to your vision and supported by our collective technical resources. Our presentation will start in a few moments. Before we begin, here are a few things to keep in mind. You can customize how you both view our presentation and interact with the presenter. For better viewing, close all other applications and turn up your speaker volume. You can also adjust window size and placement or enter full screen mode using the controls at the top of the window or dragging the bottom right-hand corner to resize. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see a series of icons, each relating to a different aspect of our session. You can download a PDF copy of today's slides from the slide deck and handouts widget. You can ask our presenter questions during the webcast by typing a question in the Q&A window and clicking Submit. We'll do our best to answer all questions during the presentation or follow up via email. If you experience technical difficulty during today's presentation, refresh your browser by hitting the F5 key. As a reminder, the presentation you're about to see is not legal, investment, or accounting advice. We encourage you to seek the counsel of a professional service provider to apply this content to your specific circumstances.
All right, we have three presenters with us today from Moss Adams. We have Sharon Gregory, partner and national practice leader for retail, Kris Dunning, partner in our retail practice, and Mike Parker, partner in charge of strategy, technology, and operations, and enterprise systems consulting. Their bios and contact information are located in your console. And then also, please don't hesitate to submit questions for the presenters during our session. We will be monitoring those and getting to as many as we can, and then following up with others after the webcast. And now I would like to turn the floor over to Sharon to get us started.
Great, thank you, Amy. And I'm actually going to refresh because
she will be back. She's in a snowstorm, so just bear with her.
Okay, good. Sorry about that. A little technical difficulty to start it off, but we should be good from here now. So thank you, Amy, and thank you to all the attendees for participating in our webcast today. As Amy said, I'm Sharon Gregory. I'm the Retail National Practice Leader at Moss Adams, and joining me is Kris Dunning and Mike Parker. The three of us work with a significant number of retailers across the firm, and we recently attended the National Retail Federation show in New York this past January. For those of you that are new to listening to our webcast, Moss Adams has presented an annual retail outlook over the past 15 years based off of information we learned from our clients and also from attending the NRF show. So I think what you'll find as we walk through the presentation that there's definitely some trends and topics that are similar to what's been communicated in the most recent years, but you're going to quickly pick up on the fact that the future of retail is really centered around the use of data analytics and AI. So we heard this message loud and clear at NRF, and our presentation today will dive a little bit deeper into how retailers are utilizing AI to not only drive their operations, but also to make those deeper connections with their customers. So to start it off on this slide, I just thought it would be good to have a brief review of 2024 results and what to expect going forward into 2025. So looking back on the holiday season, retail sales growth beat forecast by about 1%. And this really came from the majority of growth amongst all of the retail categories. Big box and home improvement did lag slightly behind others, but still showed growth. But overall, the biggest contributor, which I don't think is overly surprising to anybody on the call, is that continued rise of the online shopping. So even though retailers are starting to see, the return of in-person shoppers to the physical store, the widespread use of mobile devices amongst all generations, along with that popularity of buying through TikTok, Instagram, and other social medias will continue to drive kind of significant sales in 2025 and the sales growth. Interesting fact, it's actually shown that over 69% of all online sales were completed through a mobile device in 2024. So it's very clear that the customer really thrives on that ability to buy from anywhere, any place, anytime, kind of that option of the one-click purchasing option on their mobile. So I don't foresee that online sales are expected to slow down anytime soon with the use of mobile and mobile apps. And then one last area that kind of contributed to that growth in the latter part of 2024 is partly due to the value-driven shopper, which defined kind of the first part of 2024 for retailers. The holiday season did experience shoppers trending toward making bigger purchases and buying more as a result of deferring purchases in the early part of the year. But I think this trend is going to continue into 2025. Most economists, despite the fact that they're not predicting a recession, inflation's coming down and the economy is kind of remaining stable, this kind of budget-conscious trend is expected to continue, and consumers are expected to be kind of more intentional in their buying decisions. And then lastly, to wrap up the 2025 landscape, even though it seems to be kind of changing on a daily basis, is how the Trump tariffs are going to impact the retail industry. So I think even though, as I mentioned, these implementation of the tariffs in Canada and China have been delayed, it's unlikely that retailers are going to be able to avoid, the overall impact of the tariffs to their operations. But I think what will be interesting is how retailers react. So most likely this is going to be a combination of strategies, either from sourcing from different countries, reducing costs in their supply chain, or just kind of evaluating the overall impact on pricing. But whatever combination, I think it's safe to say that the Trump tariffs are going to kind of continue to shape the 2025 retail landscape. Moving on to the next slide, kind of digging a little bit more into the top trends in retail. So as I mentioned, after spending a few days at NRF, it was very apparent that AI is the most significant trend that's impacting retailers right now. And it seems that the retailers that have been successful in kind of harnessing and leveraging their data and developing kind of AI models seem to be at the advantage. But what's interesting and what I think sometimes can be overwhelming for retailers is how individual retailers are implementing and using AI, because it looks different for every retailer based on kind of their immediate pain points and strategies. So whether the focus is internal versus external, it's really finding kind of those innovative ways where AI can help to better serve the customer. So, there's a few examples of this where AI is being used to predict customer needs based on their past purchases. They've employed virtual shopping assistants, or they've developed, customer service platforms for employee education. So it really does span across a variety of different strategies. From an internal standpoint, I would say the evolution of AI has created opportunities for efficiencies and automation, really kind of focusing on the supply chain and operational management. So a few examples on whether it's the use of retailers using smart cameras or digital twins. These tools are really being used to enhance kind of product flow and analyze overall warehouse logistics. And I would say, overall, AI is allowing retailers to predict and kind of quickly adapt to disruption within their operations in the supply chain. And then lastly, a trend that I don't think is new to anybody that's participating, but kind of continues to evolve, is that connection to the customer. So those meaningful connections and customer experience really should still remain kind of the key strategy for retailers across all the sales channels. So we're seeing customers are continuing to expect that consistent and personalized interactions. They want easy checkout. They want real-time visibility and transparency, along with flexible delivery options. And then additionally, I think they're looking for that journey and connection through content and interaction. So social commerce will continue to be significant in 2025. retailers really need to use content to engage and have conversations with the customer, which kind of provides that seamless shopping experience. So really the focus is on the creation of a shopping destination that customers can feel that they have a connection with. And with that, I'm going to pass it off to Kris to take a little bit deeper dive into the topic of AI.
Great. Thanks, Sharon. Yeah, with AI, it's very interesting. A lot of our clients are trying to figure out where to start on this journey. You know, Sharon mentioned digital twins, and for those of you that might not be familiar with what's really happening there, a lot has happened over the last year there as far as capabilities and the ability to use AI to model both product movement in warehouses or distribution facilities, as well as store layouts and those types of things. So if you just kind of Google digital twins and watch a few of those videos, it's pretty interesting to see how that is progressing as far as, you know, capabilities that are out there. And there are a lot of companies out there that have already developed a lot of these products where you can kind of hit the ground running. But the main question we get is, you know, where do you start? And I think the first place is understanding your data. And the highest opportunities are going to be areas that with a lot of data requiring human intervention. So if you've got some of those processes in place, those are a good place to start as far as trying to implement AI. And there are a lot of partners out there that have already developed solutions that they can help you hit the ground running and get, you know, very quick results for, you know, not a huge investment from a capital outlay standpoint. You know, understanding your data is really, you know, I think that the place that you want to start, and it's taking an inventory of what you have. So really understand, you know, the type of data you have, you know, how you might be able to use that in, you know, in getting better information. You also need to make sure that your employees are trained to where they have the skills to be able to implement that. Also, you know, think about what's available from third parties from a data standpoint. So, you know, that can really help you integrate and be able to use data to really help, you know, jumpstart your business, and especially when it comes to, you know, things interacting with customers, but a lot of routine tasks. So, you know, we're seeing, you know, customers or clients doing this where they're using, you know, for product imagery and descriptions. So they're using that in both ads and loyalty programs and other things. So it's a way to really cut down the amount of human interaction that's required. And it really empowers the employees there. We're also seeing that with demand forecasting, where they're using not just historical data, but information from, you know, weather services, local events, holidays, those types of things. And that can be done at the SKU level versus at a category level. So it can be really helpful to really kind of get your inventory right. Personalization, you know, it's a great time to be a consumer when the retailer gets AI personalization right, because now you're able to deliver not just a sale or a promotion item to a customer, but you can really give them ideas for things that they may not have even thought of that they're going to buy even without a discount. And they'll start, you know, opening the messaging that you're sending to them and really look at you as someone that they are looking forward to suggest areas where they can improve their lives. The other area is empowering your workforce. You know, this is really, I think, key in retail, because you can provide a lot of information to your employees in a way that helps them be more effective at what they're doing. They can give them tools to help them do their job better. And right now, most of this AI isn't replacing the employee, but it's really empowering them and making them better in how they interact with your customers. And then the last thing I would have on here is under security and governance. Make sure that you've, one, got a plan to make sure that your data is secure, you know, and that's nothing new. But really think about how are you going to use AI, you know, from a business standpoint. You know, I recommend developing some policies around that to where you have some boundaries as far as what you are or not going to do with that. So I'm going to turn it over to Mike, and he's going to get a little bit more detail in some of these areas.
Yeah, thanks, Kris. And I would say if you only remember one slide in this whole presentation, this is the one I would vote for. I think there's just so many things, so many use cases that people have and can use across retail. Again, everybody's, you know, different in channels, whether it's D2C only, B2B, brick and mortar, all three. I think just getting those basics and fundamentals that Kris just talked about is of paramount importance. So just to talk about a few of the use cases that we really heard while we were there, as Kris alluded to, customer experience enhancement was very large, particularly for the D2C as well as the brick and mortar. How do you better engage with your clients? How do you better understand them? How do you offer that up in a more seamless manner to them? And just, again, smooth out and enhance that process. Inventory supply chain management, again, Sharon talked about internal operations and just driving cost out, inventory optimization, supply chain optimization, a lot of machine learning there. So not all of it is generative AI. So there are different types of AI that can help in different areas of the business. And that's why, as Kris said, really understanding your use cases and what's going to move the meter for you as a business is of paramount importance. Same thing about pricing and promotion strategies is, can you do that in real time? Can you do that by location? Can you do that by season? And there's some industries, obviously, that's a bigger item, and then in some areas that's not quite as applicable. So again, you just kind of have to know your business and your industry and what works for your business. Again, visual recognition in all channels. I mean, being able to do trying on your glasses virtually and being able to in the store VR of trying to have virtual storefronts, things like that. There's a lot of different, again, areas there. Kris talked about prevention and security. Again, everybody wants to protect their customers. One, bad item there can really drive your business down and don't want to ever have customer trust as an issue. So definitely want to make sure that you're looking at that regardless of what processes and what technologies you're looking at. Again, just talking about efficiency. Yeah.
Mike, I just add one thing in there that traditionally we've thought of, security in this area as just protecting the data, but customers are really looking now to see how you're using that data, and they can take that personally if you don't really have your hands around how you're going to put boundaries around that.
That and there's a lot more laws. Obviously, California leads the way a lot of times there on data protection and privacy, and absolutely, it is, again, it's that customer confidence in using the security to make sure that you're being responsible with your customers' data, and that you're not going to lose their confidence through misuse or exposure or whatever it is. Hacking, as if you want to go in that direction. So security has a lot of connotations there. Absolutely, Kris. So, and then we talked a little bit about store operation employee efficiencies, serving recommendations up to your associates that are in the stores. How do you lay out a store to be most effective and efficient? There's a lot of areas there that, again, that you can use AI for that. In the past, I know Kris and I talked about an example of rearranging a store, or whether that be a grocery store, or a clothing store or department store or whatever. A lot of times, that reorganization is just based off of gut instinct, and it can be costly and timely and disruptive. And you can emulate all that using AI. You can do based on what would foot traffic look like? What are the demographics of the people coming in our stores and buying things? There's a lot of different uses that AI can now help push that decision more forward, so that you have a higher confidence level and a higher probability that that's going to drive the metrics that you want within your business. Again, marketing and advertising, it's been around for a while, but really AI helps to know your customers, target market, again, by their buying history, by the market, by seasonality, by weather, as Kris talked about. If it's cold fronts coming through, or Sharon dealing with snow, proactively send her snow melt for her driveway, things like that. And then one that's not really talked about as much as the sustainability and ethical practices, but really being able to optimize, buying from sustainable vendors or preferred vendors, to materials, to your processes for packaging, shipping, everything that can go into it. See, your carbon footprint. There's a lot of ways to use AI, and just really being aware and making better decisions in those areas that, again, in the past, you really couldn't get to that level of specificity and the proactive nature. So one of the things that we heard a lot about it was agentive AI, and a lot of people ask questions about it. I'll kind of go through this pretty quickly, but really, I mean, excuse me, all agentive AI is using individual agents to do specific tasks. And what you're going to start to see too is agents talking to agents and passing that data on. And I think particularly in retail, you're going to see a lot more of the use of agentive AI. I think it just has a lot of very applicable use cases, which I've put on here, a lot of which we've gone through. But if you really think about what agentive AI is, it's generative AI, but it's these agents that are going to perform a specific set of tasks and or make decisions. So it could be as simple as, again, a chat bot. It could also be from an IT perspective. You have an agent that writes code in a certain area or creates requirements in a certain area. Store operations, again, feeding that data in. So if you just want to think about a box that is performing a specific set of tasks that people and or other agents might interact with, and that's really the driver behind agentive AI. And so I really do think in retail across, again, all the sub-verticals in retail, you're going to see agents come forth, in a big way. It's kind of that next wave of AI. And I think in this industry, it has a lot of use cases and a lot of advantages that it can provide to you as you engage with your customers, as you improve operations, as all the use cases that we've talked about. All right. So, Mr. Kris, I'll talk about, sorry, I'm one slide off here. I went ahead one slide. So the direction and challenges with AI, again, they're broad brushes. Again, everybody's here. There's different sub-verticals. I talked about agentive AI. I do think in this industry, it's going to be a very big part of how AI is enabled within the industry. IoT, we've talked about, on the manufacturing side of it, the warehouse side of it. A lot of people are using AI or using IoT already and have been for quite some time. How do you build AI into it and work with that to improve that IoT? How do you better, again, feed that data both into and out of? We talked a little bit about the AR and VR. I think particularly for the DTC channel as well as the brick and mortar channel. I think you're going to really start to see a lot more of that. And so I do think, again, particularly in some of the micro verticals there, you're going to really start to see more and more of that. Kris talked about the hyper personalization. And I do think, again, as you engage with your customers, one of the things is knowing your customers, providing them content and decisions in a seamless manner that are within, again, their guidelines of how they want to be engaged with, protecting their data. So getting that right and what that hyper personalization looks like, again, is a very individual decision, but it's also one that can have a lot of benefits. We've talked about operational improvements, having AI just learn, how do you optimize fulfillments? How do you optimize inventory so you're not carrying excess inventory or having significant back orders? How are you optimizing supply chain by maybe what vendors you use, what routes the shipping takes, who you use as the vendor for that shipping, things like that. There's a lot of decision points there that AI can really help you make smarter decisions. And as it learns more and you educate it more, it can really drive a lot of costs out of your business. Challenges. I think these are, there are a lot of blocking and tackling, right? Kris talked about data. I think data is number one. It's just the root of everything. Like if you don't have good data, you don't have the right data, you don't have it organized and you're managing it correctly and using it correctly, nothing else works. And so I think that is the foundational piece. And we already talked about data privacy. Integration complexity is another. Nothing's going to be standalone. You don't have systems that are standalone today. You don't have one system that's going to do everything. So how do you push and pull information and processes through your entire technical architecture and your business architecture so that all of that flows seamlessly and you have the right data at the right time and you're executing the right processes at the right time. Consumer trust, again, we talked about, that's paramount importance in this industry, and one that is always a very delicate balance of, you want to serve them up the right information, but it's also a trust in that you're protecting and you're a good steward of their information. Again, technology 101, effective deployment and management. Know your use cases, know what's going to provide value to you, know what the right tools are that are going to drive that effective implementation and usage, and then just manage those as it evolves. I mean, this is a super fast moving space. Doesn't mean everybody has to move at the same pace. Do what's right for your business, have the use cases that are right for your business. And then lastly, employee training. And we talked about being on a department floor shop and giving your employees the right information, teaching them how to use it, teaching them how AI can be effective. I mean, one use case we have is an internal generative model that you can load all your SOPs in, you can load all your employee policies, you can load product catalogs, you can everything in, and really enable your employees, whether they're customer facing or back office, to be more effective in their role. So with that, I will turn it back over to Kris to talk about grocery.
Yeah, and thanks, Mike. And one thing I'll add on to Mike's last slide here on the challenges is that there are a lot of challenges, but it's pretty amazing to see, especially a lot of the large platform providers, what they've done just in the last year is integrating a lot of AI into their platforms, as well as other providers out there that have done this now for many times. So the cost is definitely coming down, and the time to implement is also getting easier if you find the right partners. So it's an exciting space, and I think we'll continue to see speed there. I'm going to spend a couple minutes here at the end talking about the grocery sector. I co-lead our grocery sector for the firm. Most of the sessions that I sat in were basically predicting growth to be pretty much around inflation for 25 and 26. Consumer confidence, they believe, is still pretty pessimistic from the studies that were done. What this really means that most growth, in a market, is going to come from market share. It's not going to. It's going to be harder to expand current customers. So, you really need to have a plan around retention of your current customers and how are you going to attract new customers and increase that basket size. The good thing is, I think with some of the information around loyalty and really understanding your customer, there is an ability to increase basket size there. So there are some opportunities there. There is definitely a trend towards smaller footprint stores. So, that is what a lot of the larger, grocers are doing. So we're seeing that throughout. And even some of the smaller ones are really now focusing on how do they get the most utilization of the space they have. And a lot of that can be done through AI as far as modeling new layouts and other things to really make it easy for your customers to be able to get through the stores and be in the areas that you want them to be to buy, some of the higher margin items. It's interesting, I have this slide in here, watch what Walmart is doing. And traditionally big box and, some of those larger scale, they really had a hard time competing on fresh and perishables, but they are actually gaining market share in this area now. So they are taking customers that were traditionally going to the deemed to be more of a local grocer, and they're taking some of those customers. So it is something to keep an eye on. The leaders are also investing heavily in AI, and it's really around loyalty programs and personalization and how do they get more, spend from those customers. Sprouts, they talk there, they're looking to open stores in close proximity to direct competitors, often in the same parking lot. And they believe that they're going to be able to not only retain their own customers, but take customers from some of those competitors. So they are also investing heavily in AI. So that is an area that, they're really hoping to leverage that to gain market share through grabbing, additional customers. We're also seeing a trend to offer marketplace items on your e-commerce site. So it's not just the items available in your store, but it's other items that are there. And just as a final note on the grocery side, Moss Adams, myself, and Brad Smith, one of my partners, will be at the National Grocery Association meeting in Las Vegas. So later this month. So if any of you are there, look us up. We'd be happy to chat with you. So I'm going to turn this over to Sharon to wrap us up here. Sorry, we're a little late.
Thanks, Kris. On behalf of Kris, Mike, and myself, we just wanted to thank you all for attending our retail webcast. We've provided our contact information, as you can see on this slide, and please feel free to reach out if you'd like to further explore any of the topics that we discussed today, or if there are other areas that are impacting your company that we can discuss with you in more detail. We did receive a few questions, and since this was a fairly short presentation, we don't have time to answer questions, but we will follow up with the response via email. So thank you again for attending, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.